Chapter 4 of Poppy Playtime just got some new updates from the developers and even some leaks on the game's next location already, which we're gonna talk all about today, along with some Chapter 3 gameplay updates and added content. Project Playtime is finally returning. We got a bunch of exclusive behind the scenes, lost VHS tapes, and much more. So starting off simple, just a few days ago, Chapter 3 after release got a massive update that fixed a lot of bugs and animation issues, but also most importantly added a ton of new content into the game. For instance, they added some new posters to help guide the player throughout the factory, put up lights to show people where to go next, added catnap purring to the Home Sweet Home Nightmare sequence. They fixed up the pacing and overall made a ton of big changes that are worth replaying the game for to check out if you haven't already. However, most famously, they also added a brand new phone call into the game with Ollie after beating Catnap that says,
"Wow, you did it! You must feel pretty good. With Catnap dead, you're one big step closer to the prototype. One step closer to winning. You've made your choice. You're staying to help Poppy. Well, finish the job. This win is yours."
And this matters a ton because one of the most popular fan theories right now has been that Ollie could be the prototype or is at least linked to him. And this new phone call, as you could tell, sounds extremely sarcastic from Ollie, almost as if he was upset with us actually surviving and moving forward, like he was expecting us to die to Catnap, adding more merit to this theory. And plus, this also confirms we still have the phone going into the next chapter, meaning Ollie's going to be returning, but comment down below what you think this all means. Not to mention, while editing this video, they also launched another patch fixing a bunch of other bugs. Along with these content additions, though, we also learned about a ton of content that never got added into the game, as YouTuber Jacksepticeye recently confirmed in his gameplay video that he was originally supposed to be in the game as Marcus Brickley in a VHS tape, but unfortunately couldn't due to scheduling conflicts. And while obviously losing a cameo isn't necessarily a big deal to the story, Marcus Brickley in Chapter 2 was actually a pretty major character for the lore, since he was supposed to be one of the original victims of Boxy Boo alongside Rowan Stoll from the ARGs after spotting the Bigger Bodies initiatives being created. So whatever this VHS tape was, it probably would have been super important to the story to see what would have happened to him after the first tape. But on the bright side, even though this tape was scrapped for Chapter 3, chances are if it does have lore importance, it'll probably end up releasing in Chapter 4 instead, which also got some updates we talk about later, so stick around. But alongside this, the developers have released a ton of behind the scenes animations for the game that also never made the final cut. Like for instance, this is Miss Delight's final animation, and this is what she used to walk like, which looks a lot less scary, so I totally see why they changed it. During the Catnap hallucination scene, there's actually an unused animation where Catnap reaches his arms through the windows, suggesting maybe originally there was supposed to be a longer chase scene with Catnap coming through the windows, kind of like what we saw with Mommy Longlegs in the pipe scene, that if so should have definitely been added into the game because we just don't see enough of Catnap. And perhaps most interestingly, there was also originally supposed to be a whole jump scare animation for the hallucination version of Catnap that was clearly pretty basic at the time, and in game they just opted to use the regular version for jump scares, which I always found pretty weird. But moving away from Chapter 3, a year and a half ago already, the developers launched their multiplayer spin-off Project Playtime. And although the game was popular, the developers have barely updated the title since launch, causing it to pretty much be dead in terms of players nowadays, leading people to wonder what happened to the game, and we just got a big update with some good news. As following the release of Chapter 3, going over to Project's SteamDB page that tracks the development updates for the game, we can see that Project, after 3 months of getting nothing, has finally started to receive updates from the developers once again. And this is absolutely massive because it means finally the developers are actually working on the game and are doing something behind the scenes to it, whether that be some skin updates, balancing changes, or possibly even a whole new phase, which they have already confirmed is coming sometime in the near future. Meaning after months and months of waiting and the game basically being completely dead, it's finally getting some sort of new updates, and we can probably expect to get some official updates on what's being worked on in the coming weeks, especially since the devs, as I've said a million times, have have already confirmed Catnap is coming into Project Playtime as well. So whatever they're working on, it's probably gonna end up being something pretty big, so make sure you're subscribed to not miss those updates when they come out. More interestingly, while I normally don't talk about merch on this channel, recently company U2's teased that they were actually making 3 upcoming plushes for Chapter 3, dropping sometime in the near future that included Catnap, Dog Day, and also Crafty Corn. Now, I don't know if they're going to do the other smiling critters or if they're going to release them in sets, but either way, it's super cool they're making plushies of these this early. I know Mob has already done both Catnap and Dog Day plushes already that are actually really high quality, but these definitely look much better. More importantly, moving to the main part of this video, I wanted to talk about Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 because while the game is still in extremely early development, we actually have already gotten some news on the game and what could potentially be in it super soon. Since first off, in my dedicated video on the chapter, the developers have already hinted at the idea that Chapter 4 is already in development, or at least is in the pre-planning stages where they are sketching out the characters and figuring out the story and such. And super interestingly, the Poppy dev Isaac, who directed all the chapters, has already updated their bio, officially confirming the game is in fact in development right now. There's no breaks, no 2-year-long wait period, I hope. Chapter 4 is apparently in development as we speak, which is super good news. And also makes me wonder when we're going to get our first teaser trailer, because with all the other chapters, they usually release them within the first couple months of development. But much more interestingly, Chapter 4's location has seemingly also just been leaked. As with the release of Chapter 3, many people have started digging into the files of the ending to see if it hid any secrets for the next chapter, and it actually hid a couple major ones. For one, there was a hidden dev message at the bottom of the ending lift that was called Prison, seemingly hinting the next location was originally meant to be teased as a prison. Plus, also in the files was another placeholder dev model labeled Prison Sign, confirming similarly to how Chapter 2 ended with the Playcare sign in the train crash, there was likely going to be one of a prison as well. And in fact, in the game files, there is even one textured out model that also says prison, showing what this might have looked like, suggesting it was cut late into development. But with all this, it's led to the big question of what does this all mean? We've never seen any hints regarding some kind of prison area being in the game, so what is the deal? Well, I have 3 theories. Theory 1 is that this is a completely scrapped location. Maybe Chapter 3 wasn't meant to end in the lift and we could have gone into this prison area but was cut due to time constraints, which I guess is possible considering they cut other big areas like the toy store. Theory number 2 is that this is a completely new location they just left in the files. Maybe Playtime Co had some kind of prison area below Playcare that we literally just have never heard about yet, which I guess is possible. But the third, and I think the most likely theory, is that this prison is actually the code name for the labs. Since if you didn't know, in Chapter 3 we learned the prototype and presumably the other toys were being tested and experimented in an area called the labs, likely to test the success of the experiments and learn more about their creations. And in fact, back in Chapter 2, we actually got a log from this labs area for the prototype called log 08502, where they specifically confirmed they held 1006 in containment along with other experiments being logged at the time like Huggy Wuggy. So it seems like this labs area, whatever it is, was essentially a prison testing ground, kind of like Playcare but for the actual toys. And so I think this codename here is actually meant to be teasing this labs area for Chapter 4 already, where they held all these toys including the prototype. This theory is supported even more when at the end of Chapter 3, Poppy tells us that our goal with going down into the lift is to finally kill the prototype, so it makes sense for us to go on the lift and go back to his home to see what was left of it. And if I'm right, it seems like Chapter 4 is finally going to be about digging through and seeing how they created all these toys once and for all. I don't know, let me know your thoughts. Watch this video on Chapter 4's entirety to learn more, because who knows when we'll get another update, and peace out.